Eagles Nation, take a deep breath, because what just happened isn't just news, it's a shock. One of those moments that makes you stop. Look at the logo on your chest and try to process what just happened. No one saw it coming. It was fast, sudden, and left everyone in silence for a few seconds. A veteran, a respected name, decided to close the chapter before it even really began here in Philly. And you can feel it, because when something like this happens, it shakes the locker room, the team, and the fans. So before we dive into this story, make sure to drop a like to support the channel and show that the Green Nation stands together through anything. And I want to hear from you. What was your reaction when you heard the news? Leave your comment below, because today, this conversation comes straight from the heart. Philadelphia is still trying to catch its breath after the shocking announcement that rocked the locker room. Veteran edge rusher DeVonta Smith, just weeks into his time as an Eagle, has decided to retire. And this wasn't a slow build-up or a rumor that leaked through sources. It hit like a lightning bolt. One day, he was prepping for the Vikings. The next, he posted a heartfelt farewell on Instagram, closing the book on an 11-year NFL career that spanned Baltimore, Green Bay, Minnesota, Cleveland, Detroit, and now, briefly, Philadelphia. The message was pure class, a reflection of gratitude, faith, and humility. Who would have thought, he wrote, that a kid from Greenville, Alabama with just 1 year of high school football would go on to play professional football in the NFL for 11 incredible years? It was emotional, it was genuine, and it perfectly captured the player the Eagles believed they were getting. A leader, a man of character, and a proven veteran with something left in the tank. And then, just like that, he's gone. This one stings, not only because of the timing, but because Smith had quietly been one of Philadelphia's few consistent defensive bright spots this season. His Pro Football Focus grades back it up. A 79 overall, ranking 23rd among 170 edge rushers. His pass rush grade of 75.9 placed him in the top quarter of the league. 2 sacks, 10 pressures, 6 hurries, all of that despite limited snaps. Statistically, he was the Eagles' most productive edge rusher. Now that production is simply gone, and that's where the real issue begins. You look at this roster and suddenly realize just how thin that edge room has become. Nolan Smith, on injured reserve. J.X. Hunt, still waiting for his first sack. Azizo Ojulari, a healthy scratch early in the season, now active but inconsistent. Patrick Johnson, mostly a special teams guy. And that's it. Those are your 4 edge rushers. For a defense that has just 9 sacks through 6 games, ranking 25th in the NFL, that's a glaring, flashing red light heading into Week 7 against the Minnesota Vikings. Sure, the pressure numbers look fine on paper.
113 total pressures, 73 hurries, ranking 5th and 3rd in the league, respectively. But pressure means nothing if you can't finish the play. As John Gruden once put it, I don't care about pressures, get the quarterback on the ground. The Eagles are hurrying, chasing, collapsing pockets, but they're not closing. The quarterback escapes, extends, and kills them. Just think back to Thursday night against the Giants. Several times, Jackson Dart was dead to rights. Yet he slipped away, rolled out, and made something happen. That's been the story all season. And the consequences ripple. Because when you can't get home with your front 4, your secondary is left exposed. Corners can't hold their coverage for 5, 6, 7 seconds, not in today's NFL. Receivers eventually find daylight. And with players like Quinyon Mitchell battling hamstring issues, Khalil Ringo struggling badly in coverage, and Adoree Jackson reportedly on thin ice, that lack of pressure turns every drop back into a nightmare. The pass rush and secondary always work hand in hand, and right now, both units are breaking at the same time. Add in the fact that this defense is exhausted. The offense leads the league in 3 and outs, meaning the defense is constantly on the field, burning out by the 4th quarter. Against New York, it showed physically, mentally, spiritually, they looked spent. Guys tapping out, effort slipping. That's not just game fatigue. That's systemic. That's a defense carrying the weight of an offense that's not pulling its share. So what now? The Eagles can't afford to just hope this gets better. Hope doesn't bring down quarterbacks. And that's why the focus turns, as it always does in Philadelphia, to Howie Roseman. Is this the moment he pulls the trigger? Is there a trade coming? Because when you connect the dots, the picture becomes clear. They lost their best edge rusher to retirement, their depth is non-existent, and their pass rush is stuck in neutral. The trade deadline looms after Week 9. The last time this team hoisted a Lombardi, it wasn't because of elite corners, it was because of relentless pressure up front. Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, Chris Long, Derek Barnett, they didn't give quarterbacks time to breathe. That was the formula. Right now, that formula is broken, which raises the question, and it's the same one every fan in Philadelphia is asking right now. Will Howie Roseman make a move? Should he swing for another veteran, bring in a familiar face, or trust this young, inconsistent group to figure it out before it's too late? What do you think, Eagles fans? Is it time for a trade? Because if Howie Roseman does pull the trigger, there's one name that instantly makes sense: Brandon Graham, the heart of the 2017 Super Bowl team, the voice that's held this locker room together through chaos, triumph, and collapse. A player who understands not just the system, but the soul of this organization. He's been here when things fell apart, and he's been here when everything clicked. And right now, this team desperately needs that kind of presence. It's not just about sacks or stats anymore. It's about composure, leadership, accountability. Brandon Graham has always been the guy to walk into the room and instantly calm it down. When A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts clashed last season, it wasn't the coaches who steadied the storm. It was BG, speaking up on the radio, addressing what was really happening, and helping the locker room get back on track. That's what he brings, the voice that gets everyone to listen. He's been open about wanting to keep playing, saying recently that Howie hasn't called, but he's stayed in shape. He's lighter, quicker, but would probably need to bulk up again to handle the full-edge workload. Still, even in limited snaps, 10, maybe 15 plays a game, he could make a difference. Last season, before his triceps injury, he was quietly effective. A 78.6 PFF grade, 80.1 against the run, and 4 sacks before that injury in Week 12. He knows the playbook. He knows the culture. He'd walk in and instantly lift that locker room. But let's be real, this issue runs deeper than just one reunion story. The Eagles' edge room isn't just thin, it's empty. So if Graham isn't the guy, who else could be? Around the league, there are names to watch. Trey Hendrickson, for example, a monster off the edge in Cincinnati, but the Bengals are 1-5. Joe Burrow's out until December, and the team's already signaling they might sell. Hendrickson wanted an extension and didn't get one. Philly could easily pick up the phone. Then there's Max Crosby, wasting away on a dysfunctional Raiders team. He plays the game with the same relentless motor that made fans fall in love with Brandon Graham and Trent Cole. Every snap is personal. Every rep looks like his last. If you're trying to build an identity around toughness and heart, there's nobody better. But his price tag would be massive, financially and in draft capital. You've got Bradley Chubb in Miami for sacks this year, coming off an ACL tear, playing on a one-win team. Logical target. Jermaine Johnson or Will McDonald from the Jets. Both young, both promising, both trapped on a winless roster that could be looking to offload talent for picks. Even Carl Granderson from the Saints, 4.5 sacks, still in his 20s, quietly productive. And then there's the wild one, Myles Garrett. Earlier this year, he did demand a trade from Cleveland before they backed up the truck and made him the highest paid defensive player in football. The Browns are collapsing, 1 win, 9 quarterbacks on their payroll, and they're shedding cap space like it's contagious. Would they consider moving him now? Sounds insane. But Howie Roseman has never been afraid of a call that sounds insane. You can almost see the pattern. The same way he went after Kevin Byard, the same way he traded for A.J. Brown, the same way he built the 2022 NFC champion roster piece by piece. He's not passive, not when the season's slipping, not when the window is open. And this window is now. Because here's the truth, this isn't just about one player retiring. It's about a defense that's dangerously close to breaking. You can't compete for a championship if you can't rush the passer. You can't win playoff games if quarterbacks have all day to throw. You can't fix a broken secondary if your front four doesn't finish the job. This Eagles defense has identity issues. The edge used to be what made them feared. The noise, the pressure, the violence in the trenches. Right now, that's gone. And until they rediscover it, either through a trade, a locker room shakeup, or a spark from someone unexpected, this team will continue to look like a shadow of what it once was. So, if you're sitting in Philadelphia tonight, staring at the roster and wondering what happens next, the question isn't whether Howie can make a move. It's whether he will. Will he gamble on another veteran? Will he throw draft picks at a short-term fix? Or will he double down on what's left and hope this group wakes up before the season slips away? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you were Howie Roseman right now, what's your move? Would you bring back Brandon Graham or swing big for a star? Let me know what you do. And don't forget, hit that like button, subscribe for more Eagles updates, and check out the next video on the screen right now. The next few weeks could define this team's season, and maybe even its future. Because when you really step back and look at the situation, this feels like one of those defining crossroads moments for the Philadelphia Eagles, the kind that either sparks a turnaround or accelerates a collapse. Every team faces one during a season, and for Philly, it's right here, right now. Zadarius Smith's retirement didn't just open a roster spot, it exposed how fragile the defensive foundation has become. The Eagles built this identity on physicality and depth. It used to be next man up actually meant something. But over the past few weeks, that next man hasn't delivered. The rotation that once terrorized quarterbacks is now gassed by halftime. What once looked like an army of pass rushers now looks like a unit hoping someone else makes a play. And that's why this moment is so dangerous. Because if the front office doesn't act, if they allow this defense to drift, what happens next could define how this season is remembered. This isn't a rebuild. This is supposed to be a Super Bowl caliber team. Jalen Hurts is in his prime. A.J. Brown is one of the best wideouts in the league. And this roster is stacked with veterans built to win now. But if you can't get to the quarterback, it doesn't matter how many weapons you have. Ask anyone who watched the collapse against the Giants. All that talent means nothing when the other team's QB has time to make a sandwich before throwing a 25-yard strike. That's why a move on defense isn't optional. It's survival. And history shows that Howie Roseman thrives in these moments. Remember 2017? Mid-season, he traded for Jay Ajayi, solidified the run game, and that piece helped push the team to a Lombardi trophy. In 2022, he added Robert Quinn and Ndamukong Suh down the stretch to patch defensive holes. He's aggressive when the moment demands it, and this moment demands it. If the Eagles truly believe this window is open, they can't sit on their hands. Because for all the analytics, all the pro football focused grades, and all the numbers, football still comes down to one thing. Can you hit the quarterback before he hits you? Right now, the answer is no. But what makes this moment so compelling is that it's not just about roster moves. It's about leadership and how this team responds to adversity. You can feel